Mary Embry. I teach math and science with our fabulous long-term sub, Mrs. Wangler, and in place of Cassie Andrews. And she teaches the language arts. I'm math science. I don't know if you want to just introduce yourself.
I'm Gina Riffey, and I teach it all. Very well. I'm Jana Fisk, and I do language arts with Miss Lee. Yep. So I'm math and science, and with one of our math and science groups, we are fortunate enough to have Mrs. Rapin Reed in with us. So with Mrs. Fisk, so those kiddos actually benefit from having two teachers at one time. So it's nice. I'm always sad to see her go. Come back.
All right, so tonight we're gonna discuss the third grade curriculum and along with the outline of our year and answer any questions that you might have. So our math, I'm going to start off with the math. Our math block includes a whole group lesson that we usually have on Monday. Then we break into mini lessons Tuesday through Friday. We have small groups throughout the week, learning stations, which I'll get into more in just a minute, fact practice stations as well, and our math reviews. Our math review is something that we have as our morning work every day, and it will come home, it'll be graded, and well, they grade it, but we go over it, check it in class. It comes home Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Fridays, every other Friday, we pick it up for a grade. The other Friday, it will go home as usual. We check it with a checking pencil so you can kind of see how your child did. If there's a lot of checking pencil, maybe they didn't have time to finish it, or they made a lot of errors. So just kind of look at what they're missing. We are circulating as well to kind of see that, but kind of go over those mistakes that they're making. Excuse me.
And I've told my kiddos too that we kind of use that as a communication piece with you guys. So you can kind of judge and see how are they using their time when they first come into our classroom. If you're seeing that they're completing it with pencil and making it through all the questions with their pencil, then they're probably using their time very well. If you see that there are many days where they are completing the majority of it with their checking marker or checking pencil, it might be something where we need to work on using our time a little bit better. But then we also sometimes have kiddos who are out for that small portion. So if you're not sure, check with us before you, what are you doing with your time when you get to school? Because we'll be happy to communicate that with you. But one thing that we've really tried to reinforce with the kids too is that don't be afraid to correct that mistake. Don't be afraid to go home with, colored pencil or marker on your paper. Mistakes, that's showing that you're trying. We are learning from those mistakes. So celebrate that with your child. I told them what would be more concerning to me as a parent is if you're coming home and you're not correcting those mistakes. Because then they're either not attending when we're checking it, or for whatever reason they're choosing not to correct those mistakes. So just make sure you celebrate that with them, because that's ultimately our goal, is to help them learn from those mistakes.
And so once something is introduced in our math, a skill is introduced in our math lesson, it's put on the math review, and it can be there throughout the year. Once we have our mini lessons, then we break into learning stations. And part of the learning stations is a Genius Bar, which a small group of kids meeting with us. Then we have games, manipulatives, and some kind of practice that they're practicing the skill that we're working on that week. Our math fact stations are offered during our win time, that last hour of the day. We're looking at Mad Minutes. We have kids on the computers. We also have games during that time just to reinforce those math facts. We're starting off with addition and subtraction, and we'll move into multiplication and division once we have those are introduced.
Do they get to choose whether they're on the computer or
We,
written, or it rotates?
it rotates,
Okay.
yes, yes.
And maybe we usually keep the stations the same for 2 weeks because kids are in and out of the classroom, and especially with the switch classes, they will switch again that afternoon hour 2 days a week. So they are with their math science teacher a couple of days, and then they're with their language arts teacher a couple of days during that time. So we can get all of their needs really no matter where they're at.
These are our math skills. We're starting off with our units of study, and we're starting off with place value. We hit all of these, not necessarily in that order, and we also come back to some, like what money we'll have in a couple weeks, but we also come back when we have addition and subtraction. So we'll also bring back in money. Problem solving is at the end, but it's embedded in everything that we do daily.
And that's where you'll see Sherry was talking about the math reviews. When we're in the multiplication unit, you may see place value questions reappearing. It's that spiral review. I'm just trying to help them retain what they've taught from the beginning of the year and hold that information all the way through.
And our ongoing goal is certainly to strengthen those problem-solving skills. Right now, we've introduced Acted Out. Well, I should say we were reviewing Acted Out. Some of these they've had K2, and then there's some that's also introduced in 3rd grade. Some that we do later, guess and check and work backwards, tend to be a little bit more difficult, so we wait about halfway through the year, we'll introduce those. But we usually try to go through those once a week we're introducing. So like I said, Acted Out was this week, Draw a Picture is next week, introducing tables. So you'll see them start to use those strategies in their solving their problems. This is how your child will get their grades. We have daily work and those math reviews on Friday that we collect for daily grades. That's 60% of their math grade, and our unit tests are 40%. And I think the first one is, our place value test is on October 2nd. And so your child will have a review that comes home that week before that shows all the skills that will be tested on that. And we also take a look at vocabulary too. It's very important throughout our math unit that we're talking about those vocabulary words. You can help your child by going over those math pages that do come home, re-explain any problems that you see. Sharice and I always get those kids that may have a grade in the 70 or below, try to go over, make sure that they understand what they missed so they don't make that same mistake. But you can also reinforce that at home as well. Your child's math homework, to make sure they understand, right now it's just the math log, which is 40 minutes for math. We're going to be checking it tomorrow, so I've kind of told them to make sure that they bring it to you filled out, and so that all you have to do is put your signature on there, your initials on there, that you agree that they've done those minutes. Right now it's just Reflex Math, flashcards. You know, we have a lot of after-school activities, so they can, I said, Mom and Dad on the way to practice can be asking those math facts in the car if they don't have flashcards or something that you can do in the car. First in Math or Reflex Math, they did have a login that went home today, so they should have that. Think Through Math, I think, will be coming shortly.
Can you briefly explain the difference among the three?
Yes, Reflex Math works more on the facts, like we've got them in the addition and subtraction right now. First in Math has a variety of different things. They have the facts, they have problem solving, games, yes. Think Through Math has, I think it's a lot of word problems with that one. I don't think it has the fact practice.
And the first in Math, I think we'll have a limited, is that right?
Yes.
A limited number of spots. And really, I think that site works better for some versus others. And we'll, as we get to know the kids better, we can kind of help evaluate that. Everyone has access to the Reflex Math. So if that fact fluency is a problem area for your child, whether it's addition, subtraction, or once we move into multiplication division, that's a great program that we have seen just really be beneficial for kids, and we can chart and see their progress and the growth that they're making. The first in Math, I think, tends to lend itself better for kids who are really self-motivated as math learners. I know we've had that program for years, I want to say, on our campus, and some kids are really good about using it to challenge themselves, and some kids are good about just finding what's easy so they can get the points and win, you know, what was it, math or player of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, what, I think that's the name of it. So we'll, as we get to know your kids, we'll kind of help to steer them in the direction that we think they should be going. But truly, we just want it to be open-ended for you guys. We want it to be easy for you guys, for them to accumulate those 40 minutes, and every child learns differently. So if your child needs paper, pencil, they can print something off at home. We have things that we're happy to copy and send home as well. So just let us know if that's a way that works better for your child. So, and it may be practicing a variety of ways each week so that they're not doing the same thing each day.
So you expect these guys 40 minutes of extra math and then during the week?
During the week, and it starts on Friday. We check the folders on Friday. So that afternoon when they come home, if I told them, if you know that the following week you're going to have baseball practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you might want to start on your minutes, on the weekend. So
That's
it's,
the page in the reading math log is the page in the green folder behind the
Yeah.
calendar. So, yeah.
and I think there's some ideas listed there too that give you ideas for those
In the
minutes.
apps,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know we have gone through tons of math information, but I just want to make sure you guys, that math review, that's created. We look at, okay, what skills are they struggling with? What do we need to hit hard? And so those are created here by our team, working together, just comparing, looking at information on our kiddos. Those should be coming home on Tuesdays and Thursdays, just so you can look for those in their folders. Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then every other Friday, I think it says
Yeah.
that will come home as a check piece, and then the opposite week would be a graded piece.
Yeah. So this week it is a graded piece. So we'll be in that one. It'll go home in your graded work next week, but next week's Friday math review will not be picked up for a grade.
Any questions on that?
So the one that goes home, or the one that's graded, is that more complex and more all-encompassing than the other ones, or is it just another daily one?
The math review is totally created. Yeah. Oh, you mean the quiz?
Right, so the quiz on
Sometimes it's, we will have a few more problems. Yeah. Yeah.
Cumulative of what they have been doing today.
Yeah, so far.
Very similar problem, maybe just with some different numbers or names have been tweaked, that
Yeah,
sort of
but
thing.
the
Skills are the same.
the graded one, if you are reviewing the ones that are coming home the week of, even the week before, then they will be prepared for the one that we collect for a daily grade on that project. So it's just basically repeating what we've covered over the past. And some of it we do all year long. You'll see the basic contribution across the top, you'll see that all year long.
All right, and then science, those are units of study as well. Those safety, we've been talking about that. Next week we'll go into the scientific method and start our matter unit. Our science lab days are Thursdays, so that's when they're going to Mrs. Snyder. And our major grades come from unit tests. Our science notebooks we usually collect at the end of the 9 weeks. And we always have examples of what that looks like in class, so they know where to glue down, what they're doing. But that will be a big grade at the end, or unit grade at the end of the 9 weeks. So that's science.
We have a lot of investigations in our class as well, and sometimes we go through that process where it may be a week-long investigation, so at the end of the week, we may collect their write-ups, and just including their participation, how they work with their group, and that may reflect some of those learning grades as well.
Hand off this beauty.
We're having to pass on our microphone.
You're being secretly recorded. Okay. Okay.
So excited.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the way we do reading here. We conducted in a workshop model, and you can kind of see what goes on during the reader's workshop. We start off with a mini lesson where we're teaching some type of strategy or reading skill, and then we usually model that with a read aloud, whether it's our chapter book or just a short picture book. Then the kids usually go back to their seats. They have independent reading time where they are practicing using that skill or strategy that we just taught or that we've been working on that week. During the time that they're reading independently, the teacher is either pulling back kids in a small guided reading group, conferring with them, Sometimes they'll do reader's response in their notebooks, and we're kind of reading that and having conferences with them on their thoughts as they're reading. We'll have book talks. Haven't really started that yet, but that'll be coming up. And, of course, the journals where they'll write their reader's response. We will be working a lot on vocabulary. It's a really big thing as they're developing their vocabulary. We'll work on word study. We'll do that starting next week with our Wordly Wise. So you'll be seeing those torn out little packets coming home. We'll go through it in class, especially this first part of the year, so they can kind of get the routine of what we expect and what they need to practice at home. And then as the year goes on, they'll be more independent with their own practice and study. We usually have, that says 2 tests, but now that we're in a 9 weeks, we'll have 3 vocabulary tests every other week is the way that turns out. The genres, these are all of the genres that we will be working on this year. Right now we're working on realistic fiction, and we're all reading a chapter book aloud that is in the realistic fiction genre. Some of the picture books that we're using are also realistic fiction. We talk about the characteristics of each genre as we go through it. We do lots of modeling and thinking out loud and pointing out those characteristics so that it kind of sticks with the kids as we go. And we get grades from the wonderful look forward to reading passages that we do. We usually do those every Monday, and this first part of the school year we're kind of working with them, doing the reading passages kind of as a group, thinking out loud, showing them how to use a highlighter. We don't need to highlight every sentence on the passage, but highlight what's important, proving your answers, going back to the text, finding the evidence, proving your answers. So we're really working on those type of strategies. And then as the weeks go by, they will be doing these by themselves for a grade. We will grade them on the strategies and objectives that we are working on throughout the weeks. This may not be something that we do every week, but for a novel or something, we'll have some type of grade or a little project that we do with that kind of showcases the strategies we've worked on, and then the vocabulary tests. You can help, kind of same as math, look over the work that they bring home so you can kind of see where they're struggling. We've probably already, worked on that with them, but it always helps to have home support as well. Help them study for their vocabulary test every other week. And a really great thing is know what your child is reading when they're doing their reading at home, and just talk to them about it. Hey, what do you like about this book? What's going on in it now? Oh, well, this is what happened yesterday, so what's happened so far? Really, it gives you a sense of, are they really understanding what they're reading? And do they need to bump themselves up to a little bit more challenging book? Okay. That's all.
Okay, so on writing, we have been starting just by talking with them about what they've already learned so far as writers in Old Union, which is that whole idea of writing about a small moment in their life, which you've seen from kindergarten all the way up. And so our mini lessons, this first semester, we really focus on narrative, personal narrative. A small moment in their life that was either where they learned something or they experienced something for the first time. And then in the second semester, we get more into the expository, where we will be learning how to create a thesis statement, how to support that thesis statement throughout your writing by your thoughts, your ideas, how do you prove what you're trying to say. So we cover both of those genres. That's in preparation for 4th grade, where they just take off and fly, and you'll be amazed. You'll read some of their papers next year and you'll be like, I never wrote like this. We do the same type of workshop model as she explained with reading, in that we cover a mini lesson. Like this week we've been covering your small moment stories in a narrative form. They always have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the middle is where all the action's happening. So teaching them how to zoom in and focus on one moment instead of talking about what they ate for breakfast all the way till when they went to bed at night is hard for some of them sometimes. But putting in those word choices that make something come alive. We talked about showing a movie, making your reader feel like they have a movie going on in their head. That's kind of our goal. So they do that through learning through a mini lesson where we focus on one thing at a time, and then they go off and practice it. We share together. We learn that some kids choose really awesome words that make their writing come alive, and other friends are really, really awesome at coming up with an idea. And we learn from each other, and we do a lot of peer editing and revising together throughout the year. So we do take, right now we're just kind of writing on generating ideas and writing a small moment, generating another idea, writing another small moment, just trying to build up that stamina of not writing for 5 minutes and I'm done. It's all right there. I did my flip or whatever. So as we get more and more deep into our writing workshop model, and we've covered things like how do you make an effective introduction, how do you sum up something where you've learned a lesson or you've learned something about yourself, we will then take a piece all the way to completion where they'll revise, they'll edit for complete sentences and things like that, and then publish the piece. So you'll see those. They'll be on our boards. We'll send them home, and that's where our 40%, like our final grade in writing, will come from. It's that whole 60-40. 60 is everyday grades, like spelling and a grammar lesson. Common proper nouns came home this week, whereas a piece of writing that we've worked on for a couple of weeks would weigh heavier, where we will tell them exactly what we're looking for, which will be what we have covered during our mini lessons. And they will be expected to be able to show that they have mastered that or at least made their effort at that. So we're always looking for improvement in those areas. We confer with the students along the way through that writing process. We also really encourage peer editing because sometimes a friend can say that to you or a different person can say it in a way that just makes sense, it just clicks for them. So we just really work as a whole class trying to learn from each other and how to make that movie come alive, how to make our writing be what we want our reader to hear in their mind. Through our grades, like I just said, we'll be having we start with grammar through the parts of speech. So you're seeing some noun work right now. The kids are reviewing nouns. We're talking about singular and plural, common proper. We'll be changing the Y to I and adding a yes and all of those fun rules that you've probably forgotten. And so they will have a part of speech test at the end of each of those weeks of study. So we'll do a noun test, we'll do a verb test, we'll do an adjective test, those kinds of things. So that's where our major grades come from. Our writing pieces, like I said, with evidence of what we've been teaching during our mini lesson is also part of that 40%. And then spelling, like for example, you should have seen your child's green folder today. They brought home their spelling list. These first 3 spelling lists are the basic sight words that all 3rd graders are expected to know, things that have been on their word walls, kinder, first, second. And then after that, they will be broken into their words their way group where they're using their spelling patterns like you've seen in the past couple of years. So that part won't change. And yeah, we're always looking to see those spelling, those grammar skills like we've just went through, common and proper, so this is a proper name, so we've got to capitalize the letter. We're always looking, they're very good about doing it in isolation, this is what she's looking for, but then putting it into that final copy and making that jump to, I just do it because I know that this is how I write correctly, that's always such a big hurdle for them to get through, but they do this year, that's one of our big focuses. In our spelling program, they've already taken their words their way spelling inventory for the beginning of the year, so we've already started accumulating that data and are figuring out currently which spelling groups we're going to be pulling. And we do an alternating schedule. If you look at your child's behavior calendar, you'll notice that there are the major tests and quizzes that are coming up are always right there. And you'll see that on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday, there's a Wordly Wise quiz, which is what Miss Arefi was talking about, the vocabulary builder. And then every other Thursday, on opposite weeks, will be a spelling quiz. That's so that you don't have 2 that you're studying for in 1 week. And it gives them a week in between to kind of go back and forth. And we will reassess their words their way inventory at the middle of the year to see what spelling patterns they now feel comfortable with that they can use. and possibly those groups would then shift and change. So they are flexible in what your child needs, which spelling patterns are something that they need to be focusing on. So these first 3 spelling quizzes that you're seeing say sight word, spelling practice, and everyone in the class has the same sight words. That's just to reinforce to them that you should be spelling there correctly, you should be spelling the correctly, those basic sight words that you've seen. And then after that, your child's list may be different from your neighbor's list because it depends on what the needs of your child is. So those will be gone over in class, and we will be going over the spelling pattern and how to apply that spelling rule. So they should be able to bring their words home to you and explain it to you. So always ask them, like, oh, I don't understand the spelling rule. It's been a while since I've been in 3rd grade. Please explain it to me. They should be able to explain that because we do sort them together in class. In social studies, a lot of our social studies curriculum is very open-ended. Like right now we're talking about communities in rural, urban, suburban. We'll go through government. We'll go through how a community works together. But they're all very easily embedded into our reading block. So every week we try and pull out like the major skill in social studies that we're trying to get across, but then we oftentimes use nonfiction text to support both our reading curriculum as well as our social studies because they're very applicable, and that's how we are talking with them about using their text features in nonfiction, how to use your subtitles. What if I don't know this word? Can I look in the glossary? Teaching them how to really effectively read nonfiction, because for a lot of our kids, that is a big struggle for them. They're very good at reading a fiction book and beginning, middle, and end, and it's fun. But then when it comes to those meatier texts where they're having to read by subheading and looking up words in the glossary to see if they understand and monitor their own comprehension, that's a little bit harder. So we hit that reading skill again through our social studies units. Our unit tests will be given at the end of each major unit of study, which is typically about a grading period or so. Like we'll have a big Vaps and Globes focus right after we finish talking about communities. And so you'll always see, you'll be wanting to hold on to that green folder, that behavior calendar that you look at to see when those major tests and quizzes across all of our subjects are landing in that 9 weeks period now. And know that no matter what the subject, math, reading, social studies, if there's any spelling, any sort of quiz that is coming up or a test, your child will always go home the week prior with their study guide or with their list of words or with whatever it is that they need to be successful on that test. They will always come home with it a week prior. So always be on the lookout for that. We are always opening their green folder saying like, look, we're putting our review sheet in our green folder. So if you get home and you're like, you don't have your Maps and Globes study guide, I know that Ms. Fisk gave it to you, you can start holding them responsible for that as well. 3rd grade is a lot of holding the child responsible, taking it off of your plate and letting them be in charge and be the ownership of their own learning. So we try and do that for you. You'll be grateful in elementary. They will. My mom took it out of my backpack. Yeah.
Most of them already have been thrown under the bus.
Yeah. Yeah, we really do try and tell them your mom is not in my class, so you've got to be in charge of checking to make sure your green folder is with you, you have what you need. So it is a learning process as they go through this first 9 weeks period, but it does, I promise it gets better and better. Talk to someone who's had a 3rd grader before and you will be reassured it does end. It's kind of like those moments in toddlerhood where you feel like we're going to be stuck in this phase forever. It does get better and improve, especially if you and us have the same expectation for them. This is yours.
Slide of the night. Susan and I will kind of wrap up.
If you, I know we sent this out earlier, but there are the dates for our STAR assessments this year. And some of you may have been surprised if you already glanced through for 2 reasons. One, the state of Texas has pushed our assessments back to May. They were in April, so we are excited to have that extra time just to get through all of our content that we need to get through. So
And the other change is that we're looking at a Monday, Tuesday testing day versus we've always looked at a Tuesday, Wednesday. So it'll be up to you guys on Sunday to make sure that you are giving them those pep talks and sending them in happy and ready to go on Monday. But truly, and I know we've been reading your comments that you have felt, maybe your child already feels pressure before they even came into third grade because they've heard horror stories or they've, listened to an older sibling. Truly, your kiddos will do great. I mean, if they're here, if they have great attendance, they're working hard, we're hitting those skills that maybe they're struggling with. This is really not something to be afraid of. Well, it's reported. It's a state assessment, and our school has rankings based on them for yearly progress or.
I understand the school system.
Yes.
If
If a child does not pass, and I know at certain grade levels they are required to pass. Yes, that is not true for the third grade level. But if we have a child who is not successful and doesn't pass, then that tells us we probably, and I'm almost 100% certain we have been already intervening with that child. But a lot of times summer school will be recommended. So really at the third grade level,
I
it's.
believe starting at 5th grade is when they have to retest if they did not pass, because they have to pass according to the state to go on to the next grade level. Now, there can be, exceptions. For instance, if they have an IEP, an individual education plan, or something like that, there are exceptions, but the majority of the kids are required to pass at certain levels
So it's just
through high school.
It's a state requirement. It's not used to put you in advanced classes next year.
No.
No, we use the
No.
COGAT ITDS for things like
Great,
that.
thank you.
You know what? I think we do our best to downplay as best as we can. But at the same time, we're not the only ones that they hear information from. They may overhear, conversations by adults. They may hear conversations from siblings or older kids. And I think that we really do a good job of reassuring them and letting them know, you know what? All you can do is your best. And that's the same for any day of the year. If you are giving your best, we are going to high five you. We are going to pat you on the back, give you that hug, send you on your way, celebrate with your parents. And we hope that you will support us in doing that, because your child's best may look different. It will look different from someone else's best. So truly, that's the message that we try to send them for that day and every day, that you can't give more than that. So as long as that's what you're giving, we're going to celebrate with you. So oh no, you're fine.
We also give CBAs, a couple throughout the year, and we try to simulate that day as much as possible, where the guests have to be turned a certain way, so they kind of know what that day looks like a little bit. I mean, they don't know the test, but
The environment, they will.
yes.
Yeah. And I think for our third grade friends, a lot of time it's the fear of the unknown because they haven't taken it before. And I would say the majority of our kiddos afterwards, that was it? We're done? And so then I think you'll find in fourth grade, they don't quite have as much fear because they've experienced it before. Now, but then in fourth grade, the writing portion is new. So just when you think you're over the hump, they'll throw something in at you. But let us know. Just stay in communication with us. I mean, as those dates approach, if you feel like your child is experiencing some anxiety, I know that Mrs. Stolley, we have lunch bunch groups that target that, because that's the last thing we want, and I know that you want your child feeling. This is not what Old Union is about. This is not what our classrooms are about. And if they are feeling that for whatever reason, we want to make sure that we fix that.
And we talked throughout all of the subjects about how we're not going to waste their time. The strategies and the tools that we are providing them, the things that we're teaching them how to do, like making a table in math, or proving their answer, going back into the passage and underlining where did they find the piece that they think tells them that this is the correct answer to this. Those are the things that we're helping them be successful, so that when they do face something like this, they know what to do. They aren't just winging it. They have specific and intentional strategies that we've taught them that will enable them to be successful. And we've told them, you're in good hands. We're gonna show you what you need to know. We're gonna work with you. But and as long as, like Mrs. Lee was saying, you're doing your best and we're doing our best, you are gonna be fine. So that's our unified message, and we hope that they're hearing that at home as well. This is going to be their day to shine and show the state of Texas what they know.
How many hours is it from start to finish?
They are given 4 hours.
Do they get to scratch that?
Oh, yeah, we'll have a snack break, and, yeah, and that's plenty of time, so,
But it's not part of the day, right?
no.
Not at all.
No.
So if they were doing great during the year with all the
Right.
grades and they just didn't do well in the start, so it doesn't.
And I'm,
At this age.
yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because like anything, I mean, your child may be having a bad day. We all have those. So one piece of paper, one graded test, we're not putting all of our weight on that one, whether it's STAR, whether it's a unit test, whether it's a daily grade. I mean,
We're learning from
allowing
looking
some
for
grace.
trends. Are
Yes.
you consistently doing better and better and better because you're improving, you're using your strategies?
Yes, but it's just one piece of information. So kind of like our literacy assessments at the beginning of the year. I mean, that's one snapshot of your child, but we're assessing and learning about your kids every day. So any other questions with that? Well, let's get off of this one. Move on. Something else, a little less stressful. Just other times, and lunch and recess, their favorites. You've probably seen these times come home in our schedules and our encore time there in the afternoon. Our schedule, we love it. We're very fortunate in that we are able to teach the bulk of our content in the morning while they're fresh and still with us, and then you can see they go to lunch, recess, encore, and then we have them back for that last hour of the day, and that's when we are just targeting those individual needs. So
If you can schedule doctor's appointments and things toward the end of the day, so you're not missing any of the curriculum during the morning time.
yeah. And our science lab, and you guys probably know that we have a new science lab teacher, Mrs. Snyder. She's very excited to be with us and just has great things planned for our science lab. Behavior, we are always looking for that great behavior, that positive behavior. We have a lot of reward systems in place. They are busy collecting Dragon dollars, and some of us do team tallies, and it may look a little different in each classroom, but you all have the behavior chart, and we just use that as another piece of communication, and there should be a label inside their homework folder that if they have a hiccup that day, or if they're off, they make a mistake, and we have to record that. There will be a number that correlates with whatever skill it was or behavior that they were having trouble with. And that is also just a fluid document. So if we are having to adjust a math unit test or whatever that we have on the calendar, just know that that might change. We're usually pretty good at being able to predict that far out in advance, but occasionally we may have your child mark through and change a date on there. So, but I know Mrs. Fisk hit that, always look for that study guide a week prior. And we do that because we know your schedules are busy, and plus we want to train the kids early that, you don't study for a test the night before. You are reviewing the material. You should be reviewing that study guide all week long. So if you are panicked the night before or 2 days before and emailing us that you didn't come home with a study guide or your study guide is missing, that kind of puts a lot of pressure on your kids, because then they have less time to study. So especially at the beginning, helping them kind of learn the routine and the expectation and managing their time well, just look for that study guide a week ahead of time, so that if they don't bring it home, they know, ooh, mom and dad are on top of me, and I need to make sure that I'm getting the right papers in my folder. And plus, if they don't have it, we'll know early, and we can get it to them the next day, so they still have 5 or 6 days to prepare for that. So we still are doing our school-wide tickets where was it 9 weeks that they pull tickets for each grade level, and they have some kind of celebration with Mr. Fike and Mrs. Walker and Miss Stolley. Some of the others that we are implementing, we have Mystery Student of the Day, where we draw a name that's not known to the kids, and we're just mindful, and we really watch that one student throughout the day and see if they are having their personal best, and if so, they are rewarded nicely with Dragon Dollars, and they get to bring home a little Mystery Student of the Day note to share with you guys. And if for whatever reason it was not their best day, then that student's name is just not shared. It's just, we will try again tomorrow, and their name goes back into the drawing for the next day. So this week, I know my kiddos have just, is it time for Mystery Student of the Day? They are so excited.
Dragon Dollars, it's a haul.
It is. So, and I drag it out. Well, this is a new student, and so all the returning, and she and all the boys will go, because they know then that we're ruling them out. Beat the teacher, we do tally marks, the whole class is on task, you guys get a tally mark. Oh, I'm having to wait a little bit long for you, so I'll go ahead and give myself a point. So just some fun, interactive things to try to keep them engaged and try to steer the behavior in a positive direction. So we're not having to mark anything on their behavior chart.
You can rest
so.
assured that if there's a mark on a behavior calendar, there have been lots of personal chats and encouragement and please. So just know that in advance. It's never our first
Yeah,
go-to.
they receive a little choice card because sometimes just that visual reminder that they can hold in their pocket or have on the corner of their desk if we've had some conversations, sometimes that visual reminder will help them to correct that behavior because they know probably the next step will be to have that folder signed. So we've already talked a lot about homework, so we'll kind of go through this quickly. The log minutes, checking those on Friday, the spelling homework I know Mrs. Fisk talked about, and the vocabulary, and Ms. Arefi.
And even with the logs, we're trying to really make your job as parent easy. In that I know that we've talked to our kids about your job before Friday morning is to come to your parents with a pen and your log. I've charted all my time. Don't let yourself fall in the easy habit. It's easy for all of us as parents to start recording your child's minutes for them, because you will forever be doing that. And if you will put it on them, like, I don't know, how many minutes did you read last night? Like, they could figure out a way to chart that and be able to record that. You will be glad that you pass that on to them, so that all you're having to do is, I believe you. I watched you have been keeping track of yourself, and I'm signing you. Happy.
So do you suggest using another sheet of paper, or is it just like that one little box?
Right. I talked to my kids about coming up with a sticky note or coming up
Tallies.
with whatever works for them. Different kids have shared different strategies in the room about like what's working for them.
Because you could do 10 plus 20, just like a little line across there equals.
We've
and
been
then maybe
showing
have
different
the-
ways.
Yeah.
Great.
And at the bottom, it does say that when they don't have their log completed, or if the signature is missing, or if we've sent home something additional, and if we do, we'll typically give that out on a Monday, and then it's due back on Friday, so they have enough time during the week to do that. We will mark it on their behavior calendar, just as a communication piece as well, so you can see that there. And I know it's hard, and I have littles, and mine is just starting pre-K, and I have to keep telling myself, remember what you tell your own parents. Do that with your own child. It's hard to watch our kids stumble. It's hard to watch them have to accept responsibility sometimes. But it's okay. We're in elementary school. We are loving on your kids through their mistakes, through their stumbles. So if you want them learning from those mistakes, I think within these walls is probably the best place to let that happen. So as hard as it might be, if you see that homework folder, 9 a.m. that didn't quite make it to the backpack, or you find their homework upstairs, we know you want to run it up here and make it okay for them, but they'll be okay. They will learn to accept responsibility. Yes, we'll have to mark it in their folder.
Yes, they will tell us it's your fault.
But
But the
but
next
truly,
week, they will probably
they-
have it
they
in their
will.
folder.
When they feel that little
It takes about
uncomfortable
once,
moment, and it's
twice.
hard to watch. It's hard to watch.
It
But you
is.
would rather them learn that now than high school.
Yeah.
Much.
Sometimes you just can't even look up into their eyes because you know. And we understand. I mean, yeah, and we understand. We get that things happen, and we're having these same conversations with your kiddos. We by no means expect perfection. We are not perfect ourselves, and we have to allow them to make mistakes and allow them to stumble.
We
And
show them, like, this is the first time in your entire 9 weeks that you've ever forgotten something. It's okay, that happens. Mistakes happen. So
If you have a boy who, I mean, I literally have to drag information out of. I get good, great, braces was awesome every day. So, I mean, is there a way that they can? I'm gonna put it on him, but like, is there a way? I mean, do you suggest, like, I mean, I know in 4th grade they started agenda stuff, and I don't know if it's too early to start that, but I'm a little fearful that, like, I didn't know anything about a science. They had to have a science project until my neighbor told me.
it will be on your behavior calendar, and we
it
don't
wasn't-
really we don't have home
will also be in your
projects.
peak of the week email that we
But,
send.
Yeah.
yeah, and that was a group, so depending on who decided to do what part
But
of that
I
science.
just didn't, I didn't know, I mean, my
Yes.
neighbor.
And they
I have
did
a
it all
great
at
neighbor
school.
girl lives across the street.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear about it until today at
Well,
5,
and
so.
they had time at school, there really wasn't anything they had to do at home,
It's all done at
except if they wanted to bring some of the dress-up clothes.
Yeah.
And they all
I know,
agreed
but
with
it
who
was
would
a
do
com-
what.
I'm just saying, I need, like, like putting,
Yeah.
I don't need to figure it out here. I just didn't, I mean, is there something, like, I mean, can they write it on their calendar, or do you, like, I mean, or is that just kind of an individual thing, let's figure that out?
That particular assignment is just a in-class,
Yeah.
it's more of
Yeah,
a
it's a
fun.
fun
Well, I
thing.
thought y'all said that there would be other things that they would come home, but they'd have a week to do. I'm more fearful that, I'm not worried about that.
No, that's a study guide that would come home. The study guide will already be completed. It will be checked, or it may be even just a study guide of information. So it wouldn't be something that they have to complete and return. We want them coming home with the information already being accurate. Now,
They
you
won't
guys
be
have to
doing
try to
science
figure out what it is.
investigations at home that you need to build or
Yeah.
That was more or less.
cultivate, you
This
know.
on the peak of the week that goes home, like we sent it home
Look for
today.
this.
Yes.
If you
I mean, I'm
reach out
okay
to that-
asking him. I hear that we're supposed to have blah, blah, blah this week. Where is it? You know, are you know, are we
Well,
gonna tell
I
me
hate
about
to
it?
tell you, my 17-year-old boy does the same
I
thing.
mean, I have a daughter who tells
My
me
daughter, who's
diarrhea
at
in the
college,
mouth, but-
texts me day by day, hour by hour what she's doing. But it's the boy and a girl,
Okay,
so,
great.
and it's probably gonna be the rest of your
Between the
life.
peak of the week and your behavior calendar thing, that you will
Yes.
focus on getting in the habit of checking that
Yeah.
and asking them those questions, like, where's this review sheet, where is it? If they know that you're on them because we're at school going, this is going in your green folder, this is going home to mom, I'm emailing your parents and telling them, this is due next Wednesday, you should be okay.
So everything will be on the sneak peek of the week, like any additional homework assignments, the
Yes.
word we want to look at?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Our reading plan.
Thursday is, alternate Thursday is with that red, and Friday is math.
Our
Every other
alternating
Friday.
Tuesdays is, the only things that you want to keep in track are Tuesdays is word revise every other Tuesday. And so that's our vocabulary, and then every other Thursday is our spelling. And that's on your behavior calendar so that you don't have to remember that. But it's just, we try and space those things out as we meet with, as language arts teachers, as we meet with the math and science and when their unit tests are, because we get it. Like, we have kids that are involved in stuff outside of school also. Having 2 or 3 things in a week is just too much. So.
And the Friday math, that's not a quiz or a, I think we used to call it a quiz.
but
We
it's a
used to,
daily grade.
yeah, it's just a
not-
daily grade. So that's not something that you would see the review sheet coming home for. That's just the math review. It'll look very similar to the math reviews that are coming home. It'll just have more questions because that works in favor of the kids when you're having to put that numerical grade, which I know is something all new for incoming 3rd grade friends. So we'll just move into that a little bit. Our goal is just to develop those good work habits. We're trying to help them build responsibility, learn the importance of getting their work turned in on time. We have moved to, and you guys are familiar with this because we were here last year, with a 9-week reporting system. We will send home progress reports every 3 weeks, even though it's a 9-week period. Every 3 weeks it will average out. And you guys have access, I think it's the next slide, on family access to our grade books. So you will be able to see as we enter grades what your child's daily grades are, what their major grades are, and that graded work will come home throughout the week in their take-home folder.
And the progress reports are sent from family access.
Yes,
as well.
yes,
There's an app on your
yes.
phone you can check in 60 times a day if you want.
Yeah.
So you'll always know exactly what will be on that progress report and that report card because it's always at the meeting place.
Yes. It's family access.
Skyward.
So.
Good to know it.
And just things to keep in mind as you and your kids are transitioning from the primary grading system into the numerical grades. What does this grade mean? So the 90 to 100 range, I understand. My work was pretty neat and complete. I had excellent effort. That 80 to 89 range, I mostly understand. It's mostly neat and complete. I had good effort on this. The 70 to 79 range, I understand some. It may not be all complete or their neatest work. I may not have given my best effort on this. I might need to ask more questions. And then anything below 70, I didn't understand. I definitely need to be asking more questions. And anything below a 70, we're going to be working through the correction process just to help them learn from those mistakes. Conversations that we're having with your children is that, it's kind of unrealistic to expect perfection. It's unrealistic for you to expect an A to come home on every single paper. I think if you start to see your child slide and it's becoming a trend, then we're definitely communicating about that. But everybody is going to have that off day, kind of like we were talking about earlier. That one paper is just a snapshot of that one moment in time on how your kid was performing. So I think they do feel just a different level of pressure when they start to see the numbers on their paper. So helping them to understand what those numbers mean. And just knowing that, again, we're looking for their personal best, and that's going to be different for everyone. And really helping your kiddos set realistic goals, because if they're not setting realistic goals for themselves, they're setting themselves up for failure. They're never going to get that taste of success. And sometimes kids need a lot of help in that, especially when they're, it's the first year of getting numerical grades. So we will be happy to help you with that. We're happy to share as we get to know your kids better, our expectations, where we think your children should be falling the majority of the time. So please just know that our doors are always open. We are here to help you through that process. So please don't hesitate to ask any questions with that. Do we have any tonight? Yes.
Speaking of music, is there any app or program that can help with handwriting? My son's handwriting, his answer is mostly correct, but his handwriting, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
He had something the other day was graded, and I had a hard time. I was like, how did she read it?
A lot of practice, a lot of years
Sometimes
standing up here.
when we figure out, when we get to know your children better and we are able to say, like, I know you can write better than this, so I'm going to ask you to rewrite it. Like, sometimes that isn't of itself is enough to just slow down. Sometimes a mechanical pencil will help because it's a little bit.
It's not like a program or like a sheet that I can pen or something that
Just practice. If you have a conversation with your son or your daughter,
Is
and
this yours?
you say, like, I don't expect to see
Oh,
accelerating
enter,
this handwriting
enter.
over here, not this so much, then they will rise to your expectations if you are able to say, like, for some kiddos, it's just a matter of process.
Yeah, it's not. It's time to go. Yes, no, you're fine.
The numerical grading is used for all year?
Yes.
And then marking period grades are all that way as well?
Yes.
ABC,
Yes.
And-
You'll see conduct, and then you'll see our encore classes are still the ESN. Yeah.
Satisfactory.
Okay. And all of the grades are all used all throughout the year?
Yes.
Kind of
Well,
that question.
you won't see a numerical grade on every paper that we bring home or that your child brings home. It could be that we did that together in class. It could be that they worked as a team or they worked with a partner. Now they may, I didn't miss any, let me draw a big old 100, and that's great. We'll celebrate that, but
Yeah, right.
I mean, unless it's in our handwriting, it's not going in the grade book.
We're all
So.
pretty quick about entering into family census as well, so it's up to date most every day or every other day at least, so.
And this was just, hitting on family access, so I think we've gone through that.
Yes, just the first Skyward thing.
Yeah, and sometimes don't panic if you look at the grade book, and anytime we enter an assignment, it assigns that assignment for all kids. But your kids might be out of the classroom for that time period. Not new instruction, but maybe an independent practice piece. And so if they are out of the classroom for that independent practice piece, they're not required to make that up. We're not going to penalize them from going and being serviced based on their needs. So, and also a lot of times the class times that are assigned just at the elementary campuses, they don't always correlate with what our schedule actually is. So don't panic if the times look different than what we've given you. We've given you the correct time, so I would just use that mostly for the grades. So, yes.
They will be penalized for student non-traditional vacation.
I don't penalize
They're
for.
not really penalized.
If they miss assignments that they're out.
Well, we would create a makeup packet to send home. with
Yes. Typically, we're not able to provide that up front,
No, I
but absolutely upon their return. Do that. Transportation, very similar to last year. The guests have to have the bus passes. Just be sure and contact the school by 2 at the latest if your child is going home a different way, and you can copy us on an email, you can email, but we may not get that email until we have kissed our children goodbye for the day. So please make sure that that's not the only communication you're using. Contact the front office, make sure they know. They are great at getting those messages out to kids before the end of the day. They'll for sure get their messages, we may not, so don't just rely. Your heart sinks. It's a sickening feeling, yes. And then you panic. I mean, you have babies going home to an empty house. I mean, it's, yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Ooh.
Well, it's
Speed talk.
6:01, so I'm good.
I don't think it's recording.
It says low battery or something on it. I don't know what it's doing. That's fine. It's still flashing, but that's not.
Maybe it's recording.
Okay. We'll try it. Okay, the volunteer background checks. If you want to volunteer here at Old Union, you must first apply online.